Hello and welcome. This is Deepak Mishra and I welcome you all to Dominance International. I have promised few days back on my Facebook group, Doctor in Germany, that during my practicum, that is the practical training of note arts, I will report about the cases that I will see. I also started reporting on the Facebook group. I started writing about that, but then the day got so stressful that I did not find enough time to make the entire report and write things. Obviously, everything will be anonymous, but then just to give you an idea what kind of cases people see and how they are managed on the ground, on the field, and on the road. So even though the day was not very, the cases were not very dramatic, but then they were simple cases, but then it required a lot of logistical work and it required a lot of time. That is why I could not report it properly on Facebook. That is why I thought I'll make a video and explain to you the cases that we saw and how we managed it. As I told you, it's not very dramatic, simple cases, but then still you'll get an idea. Basically it was a good day. All right. So before going to that, let me tell you that you people must have noticed that we have not posted lots of videos in last months because our main objective for now is to complete the Fachsprachprüfung to Kenntnisprüfung online course, which has already been sold out since like August. I had promised that I will make it completed in October, but because of my intensive rotation, the ICU rotation that I have been doing since last 6 months, that got delayed. And I've actually communicated to all participants through mail and they were okay with it. That is why I also took the opportunity that, okay, fine, let me focus that duration of intensive station, because the intensive station that I was doing, that's a trauma ICU managed by trauma surgeons. Normally trauma ICU is managed by anesthetist, any ICU is managed by anesthetist and internist, okay. So, orthopedic surgeons and trauma surgeons are not supposed to manage intensive station. I mean, it does not come like when you say trauma surgeon, you do not expect the trauma surgeon to be knowing anything about intubation or knowing anything about ventilation and all those things. So, but then here, this is one of the handful centers in Germany where trauma surgeons manage intensive patients. And here it was a very wonderful opportunity for me, a very nice opportunity, very learning opportunity, I would say, because here the worst traumas that I have imagined or I have seen, I have seen several trauma in India as well, here in Germany as well, but I never knew that these patients could also survive. That was the difference. Here I learned that these patients, somebody like the railway accident, the train has gone over the legs, or somebody has jumped from 6th floor, or somebody, a helicopter crash. A helicopter crash patient survived, a plane crash patient survived. So a plane crash patient surviving, obviously not the Boeing plane, the small biplane, from 80 meters it fell down. So, and that patient survived, obviously it took a few months. So these cases, what I got to see, it was so overwhelming that I said that, okay, let me pause the videos, pause the course for now, and very nicely, our participants were also understanding. I have also understood. Now I have a few weeks urlaub, few weeks free, so I will sit and complete the course. I had promised that by December end this course will be complete. All right. For those people who are watching this video for the first time and don't know what I'm talking about, I would request you guys to check out our other videos and also check out our website. All right, where all the details about our work, the online courses, consulting services about post-graduation in Germany is given. All right, so having said all these things, let us go on the topic of this video. And the topic of this video is the cases that I saw. I have reported 3 cases on Facebook group. People who are not there on our Facebook, who are watching this video and do not know about our Facebook group, you just go on Facebook, find Doctor in Germany, and you will find the group. Send a request, there will be asked few questions, answer those questions, because if you don't answer those questions, you will not be accepted in the group. All right. So you answer those questions and then you will be admitted to the group. All right. Then you can benefit from all the information that there is our colleagues who answer those queries regarding PG in Germany. So yeah, that way you can benefit from that. All right. So first case what I have already reported on the Facebook group was aortic dissection. Okay, so that I'm not going to go again detail. You guys can go on the Facebook group and check out that. Another was what I also reported was the bolus aspiration. An old lady in a Pflegeheim, that is in an old age home, had aspirated while eating, aspirated bolus of meat. All right. So that I heard. Then one I had also reported was Lungenfibrose-Patientin, so cardial decompensation mit Lungenfibrose, that is lung fibrosis. So the next, which I have not yet talked about, was we were called by the police in one of the streets. We got the address that we had to reach there. We went there. The reason why we were called there was a police van. There were many police, and they had one guy handcuffed sitting in back of the police van. Okay, when we reached there, we were informed what the situation is. The situation was that this guy has been roaming around on the street, like across the street when the vehicles, and it's a busy road, not the highway, but the busy road in the city, and this guy was roaming between the cars. Actually, then he also threatened, like he was banging on the cars, the moving cars, and he threatened one lady who was driving to stop the car, and he tried to threaten her. So they called the police, and police came and took him. Now, police can not directly, I mean, here it has to be proven that this patient has psychiatric illness, because so far he has been behaving psychiatrically, and this patient, before he goes to the prison or goes for further process, it has to be certified by the doctor. Okay. Now for psychiatric consultation, this patient, they cannot take this patient against his will. All right. So then there is a law in Germany. It is called Psychiatrische Krankengesetz. That means one doctor can certify that this patient, even though he's not willing to, can be forcibly taken to the hospital for evaluation. Okay, so this thing, that taking forcibly, that means you are taking away his right to freedom. Okay, now every doctor, as a doctor, not everybody is authorized for this. Like when you are assistant arts working in a small hospital, you are not authorized for this. Then there is a office that will do that. So, but then as notarts, you are authorized for that. Okay. So then it is your responsibility, your duty to consider the situation. Is it really necessary? Because you are taking somebody's fundamental right over there. You're using your position to take away somebody's fundamental right of freedom and somebody's fundamental right of expression. So that you have to be very cautious. And I have seen that with experience that it is not easily, if somebody, like, for example, we think that, okay, I mean, yeah, take him to the police station, take him to psychiatry, for uns is irrelevant. Yeah. No, it's not like that. People, the note arts who, or not only note arts, other doctors also, when they have to decide about, they think about this very critically. Is it necessary? If there is some way, if they can talk to the patient that, look, you are doing it for your good, why don't you come? Like, so that way, sometimes most of the times patient agree, but somebody is so psychiatrically ill that he's not willing to go to the hospital, then obviously that situation has to be assessed. And this police person, they are not allowed to, or they're not authorized to assess the situation. That is the work of the doctor, to assess the situation. And this doctor can then say that, okay, this person is not compliant, his risk for the other people, his risk for himself, and then it has to be taken against his will. He has to be taken to the hospital. So this was this case. We went there and we saw the patient. He was like in 3-degree temperature. He was walking around in shorts, and he was speaking little English, little German. He was a refugee basically from for an Arabic country. So it looked like he has flight of thoughts. He was one sentence, he was talking something else, another sentence, something else. Then we decided, okay, fine, now this patient actually deserves to be taken to the hospital. Then we took him, he sat in the police van, we went along with him to the hospital, and we gave it to the psychiatric hospital over there. Alright, this was not very dramatic here, but then the law, that you need to know the law. Here you cannot just go, because you have the power, you cannot just say that, okay, fine, take him. You are robbing, you are stealing somebody's freedom. All right, that has to be taken very carefully, or thought about very carefully. Then the next one was, we had a 2-year-old who fell down from a height of 2 meters. Now 2-year-old will be around, say, 70 centimeters. Okay, now this person, or maybe 80 centimeters. Now this person falls from the height of 2 meters, and then has he was schläfrig, that is, he was very sleepy after that. The mother reported he was very sleepy. Now, as soon as you get on your pager that, okay, a child 2 years old, then the notarts gets little anxious, especially the unexperienced notarts, because with children everything is different, the dose is different, the symptoms are different, and the place where you have to take, that's also different. Like things are very tricky with children. It's not very standard because most of us are not pediatricians. We have little to do with children. All right. So yeah, so this case, this patient was sleepy. So otherwise patient was fine. No, the pupillin one so complete okay. Then we counseled the mother. Then we took the patient to the shock ROM. This is shock ROM. Shock ROM means the polytrauma thing basically, because only the mechanism that a 70 centimeter or 80 centimeter person fell from a 2 meter height, that is a definition of shock ROM. Okay, that is not definition, the one criteria for shock ROM. So this we alarmed the hospital, the university hospital in SN, that okay, we have this 2-year-old and we are coming. So they were prepared for us. We went there. The question was, should there be a CT scan? Should there not be a CT scan? Now that is the difference. Similar case I saw a couple of months back, not at Notarts but as working in the shock ROM there. That similar case came. Okay, but that case, patient was, the child was mentally retarded. So that child could not say that he had pain, he had, or any other symptom that he had. He was just whining, he was just crying. Okay, so now that was different. In that case, where the child was completely could not express his symptoms, could not say, he was always crying. That time they decided to do the CT scan, and in CT scan there was a brain bleed, there was a pneumothorax in the lungs. So in this case, since this child was normal child, he could say, I mean, he was just sleepy. So what they did was they decided not to do the CT scan, because CT scan, mind you, is a very high Strahlenbelastung. It is called Strahlenbelastung, means the radiation exposure. And in Germany, there are laws against radiation exposure. You are not allowed to use it indiscriminately. Okay, so people who are doing the Fachsprachprüfung and Kenntnisprüfung, they should keep this in mind, that there might be questions where it will be assessed or analyzed that how much thinking you have about, how much thought do you give to the Strahlenbelastung. So a young child, you have to think the indication has to be very clear that do we have to do CT scan or not. Because in the previous case where I mentioned, where they did CT scan, the radiologist who was on duty, he was very adamant that no, I will not do. Because this child is like 2 years or 3 years old child, clinically he did not have any symptoms, like he did not have any break, any rupture, any wound, nothing. So clinically was totally okay, ultrasound was okay. So, but only the child, because he was retarded, he could not say anything. All right. So, yeah. I don't know if retarded is the right word. Is it mentally challenged? I should say, be more politically correct here. But then I just use the general terminology that people use. So yeah. So in that case, the radiologist was totally against it. But since shock ROM is led by a trauma surgeon, then trauma surgeon like fought against the radiologist and said that no, we want it. You can just you run the machine. We want it. So that was the case. If that time the trauma surgeon had said that no, fine, yeah, you're right. I mean, let's see what happens. Then that diagnosis would have been missed. All right. So that time they did it. That was correct. This time they said that okay, I mean, there's a indication. It's very unclear. So let's just observe. The neurosurgeon was also there. He examined the patient and then said that okay, let's just observe, not to the CT. All right. So this was the second case where we did not do much. We just brought the patient from outside to the shock ROM. Okay. Then we had then we went to a Seniorenheim, old age home. Old age home was very posh old age home. When we reached there, so we did not. I did not know that that's a like old age home. I thought it's some 5-star hotel or something like that. And it was like in the night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So there was a receptionist. There was like all nice lights. There was a shower, like the fountain, and all those things. So yeah. Then later on, when I went inside and when I inquired the team, which place, where are we, and all, then they told me it's an old age home, but old age home for the rich. So yeah. So if you want to buy a place over there, you just have to spend like 50,000 euros, something like that. So, so I don't know exactly. This is what their commentary was. So, yeah. Then we went there. There was this old lady. This was also not very complicated. This old lady. She was very clear in her mind. I mean, people who live there, they are normally doctors and engineers and research people, all big business people who have now become old, have disease, and then they can afford that because of the money, so they live there, and they're very good, like the Betreuung, they're very taken care of, very well taken care of over there with the staff and all. So it looked like that this lady is like, she knows what she's talking about. Obviously she was 92 years old. Then she complained of Übelkeit, depression, since few hours, and she had that feeling that she should be in the hospital. So even though we did not see any trauma, we did not see any like, we did the EKG, we did the normal monitoring and everything looked fine, but still while she wanted that, and she was not feeling well, so we thought that, okay, let us bring to the hospital and get her checked completely, because we don't know, we don't know her history. I mean, we know the history that she has Parkinson's disease. Apart from that, thyroid disease, apart from that, we did not have much. But then if you are not taking the patient to the hospital and 92-year-old, you might miss something. So we took her to the hospital. That was also, I mean, not dramatic at all. Then in the night around 12 o'clock, it happened so that the phone rang, the pager rang, and we were told this patient has Luftnot, acute Luftnot. Now, acute Luftnot, dyspnea. Dyspnea, nowadays in present times, the first thing is that corona. Okay, the old patient, 85, 84 years old, or maybe, I don't remember, 72, 75, like older, elderly man, he had already lung fibrosis. He already had lung fibrosis. So, and he had a chronic pneumonia last year or something like that. So for that he was taking prednisolone and everything. So we went to the patient. Now here we had to suspect that the patient might be COVID. Okay, so we didn't put on all the PPEs and everything, and then we went to the patient. The patient was coughing very badly and had temperature from 39.3. So that kind of temperature he had. So it looked like, okay, this could be in a situation of pandemic, this could be a COVID patient. So we took all the precautions. We put like oxygen mask, we did monitoring, and then we brought the patient. Patient was stable, he was not unstable. So we brought him to the hospital and like reported for further treatment and all. Okay, yeah, then we got a call from like when we got this message from pager that, okay, the patient neurological case, neuronode fall. That was the neuronode fall. Now neuronode fall means what? It could be subdural hematoma, subarachnoid hemorrhage, any of the neurological things. So we went there, and what we had assumed is that maybe this person is like, sometimes it comes that paraplegia, the parese, and these things comes like in the we were prepared for that situation. That, okay, that will be somebody who will complain that you have tingling numbness in the extremities, maybe Bandscheiben prolapse. Bandscheiben prolapse means the disc prolapse, or maybe some headache or something like that, neurological notfall. So when we went there, I was shocked. That was this around 16-17-year-old girl lying on her bed, and she said that since 3 hours I cannot feel my legs. It is progressing. And I said that, can you move it? Like, she could not move it. I went there, I tried to pinch her so that she could, like, pain sensation. That was also totally negative. I did the reflexes. I mean, that was not very clear. And then, yeah, she did not show any motor functions as well. So yeah, that was very, I asked about history of fever, if there is something infectious, if she had traveled abroad last few days or months. So everything was negative. Then we were a little skeptical now that, okay, this 16 young patient, sudden onset of paralysis, what could that be? We put the patient fast in the bed, fast in the trunk. I mean, not the trunk, the ambulance, and then yeah, sorry. And then we brought her to the hospital, and we reported this to the hospital that, okay, this and this and this. The hospital told us that this patient has been there several times last 1 year, reporting similar complaints. She comes here with these things, and in half an hour or 1 hour, things get better. They have done an MRI also on that patient, and that was totally normal. So that the diagnosis that they have given her was Sishogen dystony, the psychogenic dystony. So yeah, then because of this thing, this happens very often, that you are notards, you don't know the patient, you don't know the history, don't know nothing. Patient, if it was nice if the patient told you directly that, okay, look, I have this and this problem, that then this patient was not very so willing, had not told us anything. We just brought the patient, then the hospital told us that, look, we just asked this patient that, okay, which hospital do you go often, and which was nearby. So that if the patient had told us the name of another hospital and we could have taken to the another hospital, then again it would have started with the entire new diagnostic or new MRT and everything. So nice. I mean, it was a good thing that they told this patient told us about that, which hospital she goes normally, and we took her there, and they had the entire history. So this way it began with an interesting case, but then later on turned out to be not interesting one. Okay, then we had an elderly male who complained of chest pain and dyspnea, typically of heart attack. We did the EKG. EKG showed the ECG. It showed signs of Hinterwand infarct, that is the posterior wall in MI. And this patient did not have much history about, he has some operations, but nothing about heart. So we immediately gave him a 500 milligram aspirin and 5,000 units of heparin, and brought this patient Zofort immediately to the cardiac center, where they could do coronary angiography on that patient. So that way, that was a one proper case that you work as a notards. That patient has a acute onset Hertz infarct, and you bring the patient on time in a stable condition to the hospital. Now that is the work of the notards over there. Other cases, that is also work of the notards, but that's not very interesting. That is not why you work as a notards. Then there was an interesting case in morning 5:30. Yes, before going to this interesting case, let me tell you something more interesting that happened here. As I told you, the day was busy, but the cases that you see here, they're not very interesting. Why was the day busy? That it was not very time-taking cases also. The day was busy because very often we were called to, it happened 3-4 times that we were called to a situation. We went there, and before we could get out of our car, the situation was solved, like there was somebody else. So we went, that happened 2-3 times, that every time you start your Notarzwagen, you don't start, I mean the driver starts the Notarzwagen, he takes you there, and it takes, depending upon the distance, sometimes it is close by in 10 minutes, sometimes it's far away, you drive he drives for 20 minutes, and then you reach there, and then you find out that, okay, when they called you, then the nearby unit was not available, but then the nearby unit got available, and then they sent the nearby unit first. Okay. And then since both reach at the same time, so that time then you are not needed anymore. That happens like that. So it happened a couple of times. Once it was so in the middle of the night that we were called a person behind Person hinter Tür. Person hinter Tür means that the people have the feeling that somebody is behind the door in any of the rooms, like any of the apartments, and they don't know if the patient is okay, if the patient is dead, if the patient is hurt. They are knocking, nobody's answering. In that situation, they have to break the door and open. I mean, so when they break the door, they also bring the notards. They call the notards also, because if there is some acute situation, the notards can immediately handle the case. So we went for 2 such cases, Person behind Tür, in the night. When we went there, it looked like something major was happening, because there were fire where the lights, the big vans with sirens and everything. In the night, they don't use sirens, they just the lights, the blue lights is rotating. So it looked very dramatic. But then when we went there, then they told us that, okay, no, it was a false alarm. There was nobody inside. They actually broke the door and there was nobody inside. So then we had to go back. Yeah, we thanked them very much for calling us for nothing. Then we went back. Around 5 o'clock, the pager rang again in the morning, and we were told that we should be at a particular place in like 20 minutes, and then we were requested to call back to the central station. Okay, the central or the telephone, the exchange that they have. So we called back. Then we were informed that there is going to be a police action. That means the police is going to take some people into custody. I mean, it's going to be a surprise raid basically. And then if something happens over there, if somebody's shot and all. So for that we have to be there. So we were told that okay, be there in 10 minutes. We went there. So we were told not in the exact location where we have to be. We were told where you have to be. Action is going to be 1 or 2 streets away from that, so that they don't see us and we are not directly in the line of fire. So we went to the spot, the coordinates we had, we went to the coordinates where we wanted to go, and we stayed there. We shut off all the lights and everything so that nobody sees. And after half an hour, we waited and waited and waited. And then what happened is that, then we heard a loud sound. Then my Notats was with me, told me that, okay, now this is what they blew the door. They have this grenade or something like that through which they blow the door. And after that, there were no gunshots, there were no shots fired actually. So yeah, then we thought that, okay, things have cooled down a little bit. So we just waited over there for further instructions. And later on instructions came that okay, things went smoothly, as in people were taken to custody without injury to anybody, so we can go back. So it was about to get very interesting, but then suddenly it all flopped out and we were just like waiting over there in the dark. And yeah, then we went back to our place. Then came another call where we were the lady, elderly lady, has called the central station for assistance, and the assistance, the reason was that she said that there is a man, her husband is behind the door. So this lady has reported that her husband is behind the door and maybe he's sick, he's not responding. All right. So we went there. When the neighbor who was also there told us that no, actually nobody lives over there. Okay, in that apartment. Okay. So now they were very, very suspicious, because this lady tells us my husband lives, they don't live together. She lives in the second floor, for example. And then she told us that the apartment above that, the third floor, there, her husband lives there and he is not answering the door. All right. When we went to the third floor, then the neighbors told us, no, I mean, it's wrong. Nobody lives here. This is empty. All right. We still took the keys. We have that master key and all. So we still took the key and opened the door and we went inside to see what is it. That was a fact. Actually, somebody lived over there actually, but then nobody was inside. All right. Then we closed that. And then we asked this lady that, okay, you told that your husband, what is about your husband? Where is he? She continued that, okay, he lives. Then the neighbors also told us, no, the husband lives in the next building, another apartment. All right. So then we asked them to show us where. Then the neighbor came along. We took the lady also along with us. This lady had a small bump on her chin here, and she's also smelled of alcohol. So it was like around in the morning, early morning. So we went there, we knocked on we asked the name and everything, we clingled on the name, on the sign, I mean a man opened the door. We asked if his name was correct, if he was the husband of that lady. He said yes, they lived but separately. Then I asked him if he's like fine and everything. He was like he was totally surprised. How can in early morning there are so many men with in the Rettungsdienst clothes and everything with the mask, and what is happening? He was totally surprised. Then we explained to him that his wife has informed us that he is not well, and that is why we have to come to check on him. He said that he was totally fine. He have not been drinking. He was not with her last night also. So everything he did not know anything what is going on. All right. Then the suspicion came again on the lady that what is going on. We asked this lady about if she was oriented, like as in if she knew the date, if she knew the month that was. So she was a little disoriented. All right. Then we said that, okay, fine. Now you should come to the hospital because you called because of your husband, but apparently something is wrong with you. Maybe, and we asked her what the bump on the chin was. Then she said that she fell down like 2-3 hours back. We asked her if she takes any blood thinners. Then she denied that. So yeah, we said that, okay, let's take her to the hospital and get it checked over there. All right. So this was all about the practicum, the notats, the sessions that we have to do, the Einsätze that we have to do. That was my last. Actually, we have to do 50. From that, 25 I had done as a Simulationskurs long back. Then 25 was remaining. 25 apart from that, like from this, many I have done before. And this was the last with which I completed the training. And now I have to submit all my documents to the medical council and wait for the exam date. All right. So with this, I tried to bring some information about this Notarz Practicum, how it is. It was not very dramatic, but then this is the usual 90% of the cases. Only few cases are dramatic every time. So yeah. All right then. Nice. Have a nice time, and do check out our website. It's a renovated website. We have all our services and online courses over there. And yeah, now we also have, initially we did not have any phone numbers, as in we did not encourage any phone calls, but now we have developed a helpline, as in the phone number. We have a team in India who will take your calls and talk to you about different things that you'll seek. Obviously, it's not a consulting service. The phone number, the guy who will answer your questions is sitting in India. He has very little idea about PG in Germany. He can do the administrative work, that he can guide you through what timings you can get for your online course, or about if you want to register for some courses or some consulting services, this person will guide you through that. But then yeah, don't ask him that which state is better, and don't ask this person that okay, what questions can we expect in Fachsprachprüfung. That is not his domain. All right then, have a nice time. Bye bye.